He's just a useless husband. My wife said IT in court. I stayed silent. The judge asked her attorney, "You really don't know who he is?" The attorney froze. "He's just a useless husband." My wife said. My wife's face went pale. "Okay, welcome in. This is an original tale for a story, and it took a turn I did not expect. Let's get into it." My sister said to my 9-year-old, "You will never have a house like us." Then her cousin laughed in her face. "You will clean dirt like your mother." My mom nodded as if it was normal. The next morning, they found out where all their money came from. Wait, what? I knew we were early because the street was already full. Not a few cars full. Full like someone had decided a 10-year-old's birthday party should require traffic control. That's my sister Layla. She doesn't host. She performs. If you arrive on time, you're late. If you arrive early, you get to watch her stage the scene before the audience walks in. Willa sat in the back seat, clutching the gift bag like it was fragile. It wasn't expensive. That was the point. Inside was a bracelet she'd made herself, red and gold beads with a tiny lightning bolt charm. Autumn had been obsessed with Harry Potter, that kid's wizard series, for months. Willa had worked on it all week at the kitchen table, tongue pressed to the corner of her mouth, the way she looks when she's concentrating and hoping the world will cooperate. "Do you think she'll like it?" she asked for the 3rd time. "I think it's thoughtful," I said. "And you made it for her, not for the gift table." Willa nodded, but her eyes stayed nervous anyway, like she could already feel the room she hadn't walked into yet. We stepped out of the car. Layla's new house sat at the end of the cul-de-sac, like it had been built specifically for showing off. Fresh paint, new wood, that faint chemical smell that says somebody signed paperwork recently. There were balloons. Of course there were. A balloon arch so big, it looked like it had its own zip code. My husband Derek walked beside me, quiet, carrying the kind of calm that keeps me from saying the first thing that comes to mind. Willa took one look at the decorations and whispered, "Is this just for Autumn?" For Autumn," I said. "And for anyone who needs to be reminded what money looks like when it's trying very hard." Derek's hand brushed my back. "Not a warning, just a reminder. Willa is watching." We reached the front door and it opened before we knocked. Layla stood there glowing. She was dressed like she was going to a photo shoot, not a kid's party. Her smile was wide enough to be seen from the street. "Paige," she said, loud and bright. Finally, we were early. Layla hugged me quickly, then hugged Derek the way you hug a man you respect, but don't fully understand. Then she bent down to Willa and smiled like she'd remembered to be kind. "Hi, sweetheart," she said. "Come on in. Autumn's been dying to see everyone." Willa gave her small, polite smile and stepped inside. The house was full. Kids everywhere. Adults everywhere. Noise everywhere. The living room had a gift pile that looked like a small retail display. Bright bags, big boxes, tissue paper with logos peeking out like they were proud of themselves. Autumn stood near the gifts in a new outfit that still looked stiff. Her brother Miles was racing through the hallway with a group of boys. Her sister Amy was spinning in place because someone had complimented her dress, and she wanted to keep the compliment alive. Willa walked straight to Autumn, no warm holding out the bag with both hands. "I made you something." Autumn took it without saying thank you. Not aggressively, just automatically, like thank you was optional. She pulled the card out first, read it quickly, then opened the small box inside. The bracelet sat neatly on the cotton lining. Bright, careful, made by a kid who believed effort counted. Autumn lifted it between 2 fingers. Her face changed, not dramatically, just enough. "What is this?" she said. Willa's shoulders tensed. "It's a bracelet. These are colors from Harry Potter. I made it for you." Autumn held it up, turning it like it might be a trick. A girl next to her laughed. A small, sharp sound. The kind kids make when they sense permission. "It's homemade," Autumn said, louder now, glancing at the gift pile like she needed backup. Willa nodded. "Yeah, I made it." Autumn's mouth curved into a smile that wasn't kind. "This is kind of poor," she said. The word landed. Willa didn't move. She didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She just went still, like her body was trying to decide whether to fight or disappear. Then Miles, who had been circling like a shark with sneakers, chimed in, grinning. "My mom says your mom just cleans," he said, as if he was repeating something he'd heard at dinner and liked the sound of. "So, yeah, that makes sense." Willa blinked once. Slowly. That was when my stomach to stay in control. Autumn laughed again, louder now, turning slightly so the other kids could hear. Then she leaned forward and said it right to Willa's face, clear as day. Proud as anything. "You will clean dirt like your mother." Willa's eyes got glossy. Not tears. Not yet. Just that thin shine that shows up when a kid is doing everything in her power not to let the room win. I started moving toward them, but I was 2 steps too late. Layla drifted in, drawn by laughter the way she always is. My mom followed behind her because my mom never misses a moment where the room is focused on someone else's discomfort. Layla looked down at Willa, smile still on, voice light like she was offering a harmless truth. And she said it exactly like she was doing my child a favor. You will never have a house like us. Willa's face went blank. Not empty. Not numb. Blank like a page someone just tore something out of. I waited for my mom to correct it, to laugh awkwardly, to say, "That's enough." My mom didn't. She nodded. A slow little nod, as if Layla had just said something sensible about bedtime. Like this was normal. And right then, I understood something that should not have taken me 9 years of motherhood to understand. They weren't teasing. They were teaching. They were teaching my child her place. Willa's mouth opened, then closed. No sound came out. She didn't cry. That would have been easier for them to dismiss. She just stood there, holding her hands together so tightly her knuckles went pale. Derek appeared beside me, silent, his jaw set. I didn't look at him, because if I did, I would lose the thin control I was holding onto for Willa. I crouched down to Willa's level. "Hey," I said quietly, so only she could hear. "Do you want to go home?" Willa nodded immediately. Too fast, like she'd been waiting for permission to leave since the moment the bracelet came out of the box. I stood up. "We're going," I said. Layla's smile faltered for half a second, then snapped back into place. "Paige," she said, laughing lightly, like I was being dramatic in front of guests. It was a joke. My mom waved a hand. "Don't be so sensitive. It's true." True. Another family word for cruel. Willa slipped her small hand into mine. Derek stepped in close on her other side. We walked out. Behind us, the party noise kept going. Kids shrieking, adults talking. Layla's laugh rising above it all, determined to keep the atmosphere intact. In the car, Willa stared at her lap. After a minute, she whispered, "I thought she would like it." I kept my eyes on the road. "I know." Willa swallowed hard. "Is it bad that it was homemade?" "No," I said. "It's bad that they acted like money decides whether you're worth being kind to." Willa nodded once, small, like she was trying to store that sentence somewhere safe. We drove home in the kind of quiet that isn't peaceful. The kind of quiet where something has shifted and nobody wants to name it too early. When we got inside, Willa went to her room without being asked. Derek followed her to make sure she was okay. I went to the kitchen. I didn't pace. I didn't call anyone. I didn't rehearse an argument I knew my mother would twist. I opened my laptop instead. Because confrontation gives people like my mom a stage. I wasn't giving her one. The next morning, my mom and Layla would finally understand where their money had been coming from, and they were going to hate the answer. But Willa didn't need to know that yet. All she needed to know was that I heard them, and I was done letting my family teach my child to stay small. Layla is 2 years older than me, which in my family has always been treated like she arrived first and therefore deserved more. Nobody put it on a plaque. They didn't need to. When we were kids, my parents gave us pocket money. Layla spent hers before it could get comfortable in her hand. Candy, trinkets, anything shiny enough to feel like a win. Then she'd sweep into the kitchen with her purchase like she was showing my mom proof of good taste. My mom loved it. "Look at you," she'd say. "You have such an eye." My dad would smile faintly, half amused, half absent. He's about 15 years older than my mom, sharp but quiet, the kind of man who thinks keeping the peace is the same as keeping people safe. My mom has never confused those two things. I saved my money, not because I was noble, because I liked the feeling of having it. I kept it in an envelope in my dresser drawer and counted it sometimes just to watch it grow. It made me feel safe in a way my house didn't. My mom hated that. "Why are you hoarding money?" she'd ask, like saving was a character flaw. "I'm saving," I'd say. "Or what?" Layla would ask, already chewing something she bought. For later, my mom would laugh. Later isn't guaranteed. Enjoy life. Then Layla would ask for more money. And somehow there was always more. "I spent mine," Layla would say. My mom would sigh, dramatic and proud, and hand her another bill. When I asked for more, my mom would stare at me. "You still have money," she'd say. "Yes," I'd say. "Because I didn't spend it." "Exactly," she'd say. "So why would you need more?" That was the rule in my house. Spending was rewarded. Saving was treated like stubbornness. Layla grew up like she was always about to be photographed. New outfits, new shoes, always social, always surrounded. I grew up practical. Homework, part-time job, quiet hobbies. The kind of life that doesn't photograph well but does pay bills. My family didn't find that charming. "You're so serious," my mom would say. "Lighten up." Layla would roll her eyes. "She's boring." Sometimes my dad would try, softly. "Let her be." My mom would talk right over him like his words were background music. "Paige needs to learn," she'd say. Life is about people. Paige thinks life is about numbers. She wasn't wrong about the numbers. Numbers were the only thing in my house that didn't change when my mom decided to change the story. Layla married first. She married Mitchell, who looked impressive in the way men look impressive when they know how to talk. Nice car, big plans, a confident smile that makes people assume the bank agrees. My mom loved him immediately, which should tell you everything. Layla and Mitchell had 3 kids, Miles, Autumn, and Amy. Their life was loud. Their house was always decorated. Their vacations were always posted. Their upgrades were always explained like the rest of us were waiting for the announcement. My mom adored it. It fit her worldview. That's success, she'd say, staring at Layla's photos like they were proof she'd done parenting correctly. Then I married Derek. Derek doesn't come from money. He comes from work. He fixes things before they break. He keeps a flashlight in the car. He checks weather reports before driving. He's the kind of man who doesn't impress people who confuse chaos with personality. My mom's review of him was one sentence. He's nice. That was it. Derek and I started a business together, managed property maintenance. In plain English, we take care of rentals. We keep places standing. We fix what breaks, clean what's left behind, and make sure the next person can walk in without gagging. My family called it cleaning. How's your little cleaning thing? Layla would ask, smiling like she was being supportive. It's going, I'd say. My mom would wave a hand like she was brushing lint off her sleeve. That's not real money. We didn't argue. We just kept working. Quietly, it grew into real money. The kind you don't post about, the kind you use. And then Willa came along. Willa was a gentle baby, not fragile, just observant. She watched faces. She listened before she spoke. Even as a toddler, she had that careful way of moving through rooms like she didn't want to knock anything over. The first time my mom held her, she didn't say, "She's beautiful," or she said, "She's so quiet. Is she okay?" That was my mother in one sentence. If you're not performing, she assumes something is wrong with you. Willa grew into the kind of kid who says thank you without being told. The kind who saves her candy for later and makes birthday cards by hand because she thinks it matters. And every time we were around my family, I watched Willa learn their rules the hard way. My mom would light up for Layla's kids. Big hugs, loud praise, photos. Look at you like they'd cured something. Willa would get the polite version, the quick pat, the aw how sweet like she was a nice background detail. Willa noticed, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way. The way she went still when the room got loud. The way she stopped volunteering stories halfway through because nobody was listening. I told myself it wasn't favoritism. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself Willa didn't care. Mothers tell themselves a lot of things when the alternative is admitting your child is being measured and found lacking by people who should love her. Then my dad's mobility started getting worse. Not dramatic, not a crisis. Just that slow shift where stairs become negotiations and walking gets cautious. My mom did what she always does when something needs handling. She organized it. She set up a church fund with a hopeful name, Steps, and Strength Fund. The description was tidy and encouraging, the kind that makes people click donate and feel like the insurance doesn't. Better sessions, more appointments, the things that make life easier, but are easy to skip when you tell yourself you'll do it later. I could help. So I did. Not in one big lump sum. That would have become a story. I built it the way I built everything, quietly, methodically, without asking permission. 26 recurring donor profiles, different names, different accounts, small amounts that looked like a community. Altogether about $2,800 a month. And on top of that, I sent my parents the visible support. 200, sometimes 3, utilities, groceries, the ordinary stuff. Willa didn't know the numbers. She didn't need to. She just knew Grandpa was having a hard time walking and she'd ask, "Is he hurting today?" And I'd say, "He's trying his best." Derek didn't love any of it. One night, after Willa fell asleep with her hair still damp from the bath, he sat across from me and said, "Paige, you know they don't treat you like family." "They're my parents," I said, because that sentence is hard to argue with when it's sitting inside your bones. Derek's voice stayed calm. "That's his gift?" "I'm not saying don't love them," he said. "I'm saying don't teach Willa that love means swallowing disrespect." I didn't answer because he was right in a way I didn't want to name yet. Then came Autumn's party, the bracelet, the laugh, the words to my child. And something in me turned clean and final, like a lock. I could be a daughter later. I had to be Willa's mother first. That night, after Willa went to bed, I sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. Derek sat across from me, quiet, present. Willa had asked for extra water before bed, not because she was thirsty, because she didn't want the day to end, because sleep means you have to wake up and remember. I hated that. I logged into the donation portal. Steps and Strength Fund stared back at me with a picture of my dad smiling in a way that looked forced. My mom had chosen it. Of course she had. A smiling photo makes people give more. I clicked through the recurring donations. 26 little profiles. 26 little lies I'd built to protect my family from my family. I canceled them one by one. It took longer than I expected, not because it was hard, because the portal kept asking me if I was sure. Yes, I was sure. Then I canceled the standing order to my parents, currently $245 a month. The kind of small help they acted like they didn't need. When I was done, I closed the laptop and sat there. Derek reached across the table and took my hand. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said. "But I'm steady." The next morning passed quietly, too quietly. By afternoon, my phone rang. Layla. I stared at her name for a second, then answered. "What did you do?" Layla's voice was sharp, breathless. In the background, I could hear my mom close, loud. The way she gets when she's trying to control something with volume. "I don't know what you mean," I said, because I needed her to say it. "All the donors canceled," Layla snapped. "All of them, at once." My mom's voice cut in, muffled but clear enough. "This isn't normal. Someone did something." Layla sounded frantic now. 26 cancellations. In an hour. They're gone. "Paige, did you smear us? What did you do?" I leaned back in my chair. The word smear landed with a familiar taste. My mom's favorite strategy. If something goes wrong, it's because someone attacked her. "No," I said. "I didn't smear you." "Then why did they all stop?" Layla demanded. "We need that money. We, not dad, not therapy, not care. We." My stomach tightened. I kept my voice calm. "It wasn't 26 people." There was a pause. A small one. "What?" Layla said. "It was me," I said. "All 26 profiles." Silence. Then Layla laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking," I said. "I set them up. I paid every month. I canceled them." My mom's voice came through. Louder now. "Paige, stop lying." "I'm not lying," I said. "I'm done." Layla's tone shifted quickly. "Where would you even get that kind of money?" I almost laughed because the answer was simple and also the answer they refused to see. "I have a successful business," I said. "I just don't perform it for you." My mom made a noise like she'd bitten into something sour. "This is because of yesterday," Layla said, and now her voice was syrupy. "Paige, it was a joke," my mom chimed in. "You're overreacting. Layla needs thicker skin." I felt something go cold in my chest. I kept my voice even. "You told my child she'll never have a house like you." "It's the truth," my mom snapped. And when Autumn looked her in the face and said, "You will clean dirt like your mother," nobody stopped her. I continued. "You laughed. You nodded. You taught her it was normal." Layla scoffed. "She took it wrong." "She's 9, I said. A pause. Then Layla's voice hardened. "You have to turn it back on." "No," I said. My mom's voice sharpened like a blade. "Do you know what you're doing to your father?" I waited because that was the moment I needed. "Tell me," I said. "What am I doing?" Layla inhaled hard. "We can't afford this." There it was again. "We." I didn't respond. I let the silence stretch. Layla cursed under her breath, then said, "We're coming over." The line went dead. Derek looked up from the counter where he'd been washing dishes. He didn't ask what happened. He could tell. "Are they coming here?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He nodded. "Okay." They arrived within 2 hours. My mom and Layla didn't knock like guests. They knocked like people who expect the door to open because it always has. Willa stayed behind me close enough that I could feel her breath on my elbow. Derek stood back, quiet, letting me take the lead. I opened the door. My mom didn't even look at my face first. She looked past me into my house like she was checking whether I'd suddenly become someone else overnight. Layla was the one who spoke, voice too bright and too fast. "Okay. We get it," she said. "You have money. Congratulations. Now turn it back on." My mom nodded once. Sharp. "This has gone far enough." I didn't move out of the doorway. "No," I said. "You don't get to come here and give orders." Layla's smile twitched. "Paige, don't do this. It's embarrassing." I stared at her. "For who?" My mom's patience snapped. "For your father." She said it like it was the final word. Like if she said, "Dad," everything became holy and untouchable. I kept my voice low. "Then you won't mind if I call him right now and tell him exactly what I canceled?" My mom's eyes widened for a fraction of a second. Layla's head jerked up. "No." That one word was too quick, too terrified. I paused, not for effect, because my body needed a second to catch up to what I just heard. I looked from Layla to my mom. My mom's face tightened. "He doesn't need to be upset. He doesn't need to know." Layla added and then tried to fix it mid-sentence. I mean, he's already dealing with enough. There it was. That was the slip. Not a number. Not a detail. The instinct. Keep Dad out of it. I felt something cold settle behind my ribs. I said very quietly, why would he be upset if the money was for him? Neither of them answered. My mom's mouth opened, then closed. Layla swallowed, eyes flicking toward the driveway like she was calculating exits. Will his fingers curled into my sleeve? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't repeat myself. I just stood there and let the silence do what it does when there's nowhere left to hide. My mom finally spoke, clipped and resentful. You always make everything dramatic. I nodded once. No, I make it clear. Then I said the sentence that changed the air in my own doorway. Tell me the truth about where that money was going. My mom stared at the floor. Layla stared at the wall. And in the quiet between us, I got my answer without a single confession. I needed to hear it from the only person who mattered. My dad. I waited 2 days, not because I was hesitating, because I needed a moment to think, to breathe, to plan what to say without turning it into a fight I couldn't take back. My dad went to physiotherapy once a week. He didn't like it. He liked it the way people like vegetables. He knew it was good for him, but he also resented that his body needed it. I showed up at the clinic 15 minutes early. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and old magazines. A TV played a morning show with the volume too low to be useful. My dad sat in a chair by the wall, hands folded over his cane. He looked smaller than I remembered, not weak, just older. He smiled when he saw me. Paige, he said, surprised. What are you doing here? I wanted to see you, I said. Do you have a minute? He nodded. Sure. We stepped outside, away from the waiting room. There was a small bench near the entrance. My dad lowered himself onto it carefully, like his knees were negotiating with gravity. I sat beside him. For a moment I didn't speak, because I didn't want to start with accusation. How's therapy going? I asked. He shrugged. It's all right. It's basic. Insurance covers most of it. Do you do the extra sessions? I asked. The ones the fund was for. He blinked. Extra sessions? My throat tightened. The ones that aren't covered, I said, keeping my voice steady. The better program. He shook his head slowly. No, too expensive. Your mom said we couldn't justify it. I stared at him. How much did you think the fund brought in? I asked gently. He looked uncomfortable. Oh, not much. A little. Maybe 100, 200 here and there. And you saw that money? I asked. He frowned. Your mom handled it. She said it helped with small things. Small things. I took a breath. Dad, I said. I need you to hear me without interrupting. He nodded, wary now. I've been donating to that fund. I said, every month. His expression softened. Paige, you didn't have to. I did, I said. But I need you to understand how much. He blinked. How much? I pulled out my phone. My hands were steady, but my stomach wasn't. I set up 26 donor profiles. I said, different names, different accounts. He stared at me. I did it so no one would know it was me. I continued. Altogether, it was about $2,800 a month. My dad didn't speak. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. That's not possible, he said finally, voice thin with disbelief. Paige, it is, I said. And I can show you. I scrolled and turned the screen toward him. 26 profiles, recurring payments, dates, totals. His eyes tracked the list slowly, like his brain was catching up to something his heart didn't want to accept. His face changed, color draining, then returning in patches. Why would you? He started, then his voice cracked. Why would you do that? Because you needed help, I said, and because I could, and because I didn't want Mom to turn it into a story about her sacrifice. He stared at the screen again, then he looked at me. I never got that, he said, and the words came out heavy. Paige, I never got that. I know, I said quietly. That's why I'm here. He looked down at his hands. They were trembling slightly. I thought, he said, and swallowed. I thought people were just being kind. They were, I said. It was me. He closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, they were wet. I could have done the better program, he whispered. I could have walked better. I felt a tightness behind my ribs that I didn't let turn into tears. Not here, not in a clinic parking lot. I'm sorry, I said, even though I wasn't the one who did it. He shook his head. No, not you. His jaw tightened. Your mother, he said. And it wasn't angry exactly. It was stunned, like a man seeing his own life clearly for the first time. He turned his head toward the clinic door as if he expected her to appear there, smiling, carrying the narrative. She never told me, he said. I didn't fill in the blank because the blank was too ugly. That night, my mom called me. She didn't start with hello either. How dare you? She hissed. How dare you go to him? Do you want to ruin our marriage? I held the phone away from my ear for a second, then brought it back. You ruined your marriage, I said. Not me. You embarrassed me. She snapped. You stole from him, I said, and my voice stayed even. Be glad I didn't call the police. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. You wouldn't, she said, like she was challenging me. I didn't answer because I didn't have to. A week later, my dad asked me to meet him at a lawyer's office. Layla was there. My mom was there. Mitchell wasn't. That didn't surprise me. Mitchell avoids rooms where Layla's image might take damage. My mom sat upright in the chair, lips pressed into a line. Layla looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were puffy. Her hands kept moving, fidgeting with her ring. My dad walked in slowly, cane tapping the floor. He looked tired, but he looked decided. The lawyer explained things in simple language. The house my parents lived in belonged to my dad, inherited from his side of the family. My mom's face shifted. Confusion, then alarm. My dad spoke, voice quiet but firm. Your mother can live there while I'm alive, he said, looking at me briefly, then back at the table. But when I'm gone, it goes to Willa. Layla jerked her head up. What? My mom's face went pale. That's not my dad lifted a hand. It is. The lawyer continued. A trust. Willa as beneficiary. Me as trustee. Clear structure. Clear boundary. My mom stared at my dad like she was seeing him as a stranger. Layla's mouth opened. Dad, you can't. I can, he said. My mom's voice came out tight. After everything I've done. My dad looked at her and something in his eyes hardened. Not hatred. Something quieter. Something that says a person has run out of patience. You handled the money, he said. And you handled it wrong. My mom's jaw clenched. Layla started crying suddenly as if tears were a tool she'd always used and didn't understand why they weren't working now. I sat still. Willa wasn't in that room. Thank goodness. She didn't need to watch adults bargain with consequences. After that meeting, my mom tried to control the story the only way she knows how. She told people I had scared off donors, that I had attacked the family, that I was punishing my father. But this time, the narrative didn't hold. Because my dad, the quiet man who had spent decades staying out of it, did something none of us expected. He spoke. He called relatives. He told them what happened. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't rant. He said it plainly. My wife diverted money meant for my care, he said. And my daughter was the one giving it. People went quiet. And then, slowly, they stopped answering my mom's calls the way they used to. The loudest consequence wasn't the trust. It was the silence. A year later, Layla's life looked different. She sold the house. The new one, the one she'd shown off like it was proof of being better than everyone else. The mortgage was too big. The cushion was gone. The math won. She moved into a cheaper rental. I didn't hear it from her. I heard it through the family grapevine, delivered by someone who insisted they weren't gossiping while gossiping with remarkable detail. Layla threw another birthday party, but it wasn't a production anymore. It was small. Family only. Mostly because she couldn't afford more. And partly because once people know you were siphoning money meant for your own father, they get busy on birthday weekends. Her kids struggled. They'd grown up thinking no was a temporary condition. Now it was the permanent weather. My parents stayed together. No dramatic separation. No big exit scene. They'd still live in the same home. But the future of that home isn't my mom's anymore. It's in a trust. For Willa. My mom can live there while my dad is alive. That was his choice. He didn't want to blow up his life at his age. But when he's gone, she doesn't inherit the house she's always treated like proof of virtue. My relationship with my mom is close to zero. We speak when we have to. Briefly, carefully, like people handling something sharp. My relationship with Layla is even less. Not because I'm dramatic. Because I'm done volunteering for pain. My relationship with my dad changed. He started spending money on himself without apologizing. He goes to the good therapy now. The kind he used to call too much. And I pay for it names. Just an appointment card, a receipt, and my dad walking a little steadier. He comes over every week. Sometimes alone. Sometimes with a small bag of fruit he insists is for Willa. He sits at our kitchen table, while Willa shows him her newest bracelet. Her newest drawing, her newest obsession. He listens like it matters. He's a better grandfather now. And quietly, he's trying to be a better father. Once as he stood at the door putting on his coat, he said, I should have spoken up sooner. I didn't respond right away. Because that sentence is heavy. Then I said, I know. And he nodded, eyes wet, and left without making it bigger than it was.